Well, hello everyone. Welcome to another very exciting episode right here on the MIgardener channel. In today's episode, as you can tell, we're not out in the garden today. We're actually in the grow room, and that's because I wanted to bring a topic out to you guys that I thought was very important and very time sensitive. And so I pushed everything that I had going on to the side so that I could bring this video out to you guys because I'm very, very excited and very passionate about this topic. Now, the reason why I'm so excited and passionate is because it can be so easily remedied and it could solve so many gardeners' problems. Every year we get quite a few, I would say more than a couple dozen. I mean, at least 50 to 75 people will write in saying, Luke, I spent all this time and all these resources only to find out that I had bad seed. Now I've wasted all this time, I'm behind, I'm actually behind schedule, I've wasted a bunch of money, and I'm just really discouraged, and I really don't know if seed starting is going to be my thing. And there's one simple step that can make all of that remedied. Now, you can't remedy if you've already wasted the time. You can't remedy if you've already wasted the resources. But there's one simple step that you could do before you even begin seed starting that could give you an indication if the seed you're using is going to be bad seed or low germination rate seed or inviable seed. And that is through what's called germination testing. Now, this is something that seed companies do all the time. And if you look in the back of seed packets, every seed packet will tell you a date that it was packed. And that tells you that it's fresh seed. And when they have fresh seed has to meet certain germination standards. Now, there can be things that happen, obviously, in the process that go awry, things that happen in storage that go awry, but whenever, even MIgardener, when we bring fresh seed in, that seed has to be cataloged, it has to be tested to make sure that it meets those thresholds for high germination. Then when it is packed for a packed by date to ensure that that germination rate that we had translates to the germination rate that you're going to get. And on the back of every single seed packet, doesn't matter, it should have a packed by date. And so you want to make sure that you, number one, have fresh seed. A lot of gardeners don't use fresh seed, and that germination rate can decline when you're not using fresh seed. One of the biggest things I see people doing is they open up a packet and they'll say, well, I didn't use all my seed, I'm going to save it for another year. And that's fine. But just know that old seed is going to have a lower viability than fresh seed, depending on the type of seed. Onion seeds, carrot seeds have very, very low viability after about 1.5 to 2 years. So they drop off very quickly. Things like tomatoes, the viability drops off much slower. So a year, 2 years might not make that big of a difference. It still will make some difference, but not a massive one. So depending on the type of crop that you're planting also will play a huge role into viability. The temperature in which they're being stored can play a huge role into viability. If your seeds are stored very warm in a very humid environment or a very damp environment, that's going to be very prone to mold, mildews, and rots and things like that that are going to cause the seeds to be less viable. Also, the way that you store them as well, not just in a cool, dark, dry location, but the way that you actually store them. If you store them out in the open, there can be lots of little mites that actually come in and feed on your seeds. So having them in a sealed container is very important. If they're just open to the air, there could be lots of things that come in and feed on them because there's lots of little mites and bugs and creepy crawlies that you can't see that do exist. And so there's lots of different things that can go wrong with viability. But the purpose of viability testing is so that you know that the seeds are going to germinate when you actually put them in your garden. Now, there's one downside to this, and that's that it takes seed. And so depending on your budget constraints and your garden size and how many plants you're going to use will dictate just how sure you want to be that your seeds are viable. Now, I'm going to go through how to do it. But like I said, I want to first state that I'm aware that you're going to be potentially wasting a little bit of money here. And it's not really wasting money because if it saves you money in the long run, then it saved you money and time. So for me, this is just an added level of reassurance that I have really good quality seed. So depending on what seed you got here, you can use 10 seeds, you could use 100 seeds, but what you want to do is you want to have some decent sample size. Don't have one seed. If I were to take this Market More 76 cucumber and take one seed, well, what happens if that one seed was the one out of that packet that germinated? But also, you don't want to take a whole packet and use like 100 seeds. I mean, you could use 100 cucumber seeds, but if you're going to spend $3 or $4 just to make sure that one packet you use on your garden is going to be viable, it's a bit of a punch to the gut. So you don't necessarily have to use 100 cucumber seeds, but just use a smart amount. If I have 50 seeds in this pack, I might use 5 seeds. I might use 5 seeds, and that'd be a good amount for me to use for cucumber. With something like, I don't know, with something like squash or basil, for instance. Basil, there's 500 seeds in a pack. And I know that if I have really good germination rates, which I should if it's fresh seed, if I haven't been keeping it around for a long period of time or anything like that, that the viability should be fairly good. And so 500 seeds, I don't need to sample 500 seeds. I might sample 10 seeds. I might take 10 seeds and throw those in. So just depending on the amount of seeds that you get in a pack and how much you want to dedicate to this process is up to you. But just know that the more seeds you sample, the more accurate your germination rate is going to get. Get yourself some, doesn't matter what you want to use. It could be Tupperware containers. It could be Ziploc bags. Ziploc bags work great. I just don't have any right now. With a kid in the house and a kid going to school, you go through Ziploc bags much quicker than you expect. So for the example here, I'll get more for me, but every year I do this. Every single year I do this. I do this about 2 or 3 weeks before I start seeds. And that way, I'm not wasting time. I'm doing this well before seed starting begins so that I know that I have my seed. I know that the seed I have is good. And when it comes time to starting seed, they're going to be up and off to the races. So don't do this like April 1st. Don't do this April 4th or whenever you're going to be starting your seeds. Do this like now, because not a whole lot's going to change. If you have good seed, it's going to stay good as long as you keep it cool, dark, and dry. It's going to stay good for 2 or 3 months. So do this now during the off season so you know that the seed you have is good. And so what we're going to do is we're simply going to take a little bit of paper towel. We're going to stick it in, whether it's a Ziploc bag or a little thing of Tupperware here, and we're just going to gently damp. Now, you don't want a pool of water. You want just enough water to where the paper towel is damp and there's no extra water floating around. See how there's extra water dripping off? You don't want a bunch of that extra water. Just let it drip off until nothing else drips, and anything else, discard. You want just a damp paper towel. And now, come on in close. I'll show you what we're going to do. It's super simple. All right, so it's this simple. Once you have your damp paper towel, you're going to take your seeds, whatever seed you're going to use for your viability testing. What you want to do is you want to pick the kind of the population size, if you will, the sample size of what you're going to be testing. So like I said, for this basil here, I'm going to do 10 seeds. If 9 germinate out of 10, you got yourself 90% germination, or around 90%. Again, your margin of error is going to be dictated by how many seeds you start. If you start 1,000 seeds and you get 999 to germinate, that's way more accurate than if 9 out of 10 germinate, because it's reducing that margin of error. So again, do I recommend starting 1,000 seeds? I mean, you can, but I don't recommend starting 1,000 seeds. Plus it's a lot to count. So because you got to count, you got to know how many seeds you're starting with so that you can see what the viability is. And so I'm starting with just 10. 10 is fine enough for me for something like basil. If I'm starting something like lettuce, I might do 100 seeds. If I'm doing something like squash, bigger seeds, I might do like 5 seeds. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. I got 10 seeds in there. always look so funny. 10 seeds does not look like 10 seeds. I got 10 seeds in there. And then we're going to close them up. Also, make sure that all the seeds that you threw in here have a fair chance of sprouting. And if they look damaged, if they look like they have mold, or if they look like they have some issues, you're not really giving yourself a fair shake. So there's always going to be some issues with, some damaged seed, a chipped seed. Just pick out the best looking seeds possible so you give yourself, like I said, the best chance at ensuring that you have a good set of viable seeds. And then the nice thing is we have a seed log. And that's where I love to use a notebook. A notebook is it's just so valuable to a gardener for a lot of things. But the one thing that I like to do is do a viability log. So I'll just write here a viability log, and I'll write here, this was sweet basil. How many seeds I started with. So I started with 10 seeds, so I remember. And then I'm also going to write the date that I started them. So it is January, what date is it? 15th. Okay, so I started them on the 15th of January. And then I'm going to just log here in this section. I'm going to log how many seeds germinate. How many seeds germinate? Now again, depending on how long it takes them to germinate is based on the seed that you're starting. So if you look on the back of every seed packet, they should tell you days to germination is 7 to 14 days. So what I will always do is I will always go to the largest amount of days. If it's 7 to 14, don't count your results on day 7. Don't count your results on day 7 because there could still be 7 more days when something can germinate. So what I'll do is I'll wait 14 days. Now again, are these going to survive if they start germinating on day 7 and they're not in any soil, they don't have any growing medium, any nutrients, anything like that? Are they going to survive? No, that's not the purpose of this. Yes, you can take these out and throw them in soil if you want to. That's not really worth my time and my effort, to be honest. The process of germination testing is worth my time and my effort. So I'm going to see after 14 days how many seeds germinated, and I'm going to check. And I'm going to divide them by how many seeds I have so I can get a percentage. And that's going to be the percentage that you're going to aim for, which dictates the viability of your seed. And now typically anything above 70% is very good germination. People always say, "Look, what's a really good germination rate?" And it always varies. If you have something like basil, you might get around 80% germination. If you get something like a brassica, like broccolis, cabbages, things like that, you're going to have something probably closer to 85, 90% germination. If you have something like a tomato, you might have 95 to 97% germination, much higher germination. It always varies. Lettuce, carrots, you're going to have lower germination. But again, just anything higher than 70% is typically very, very good. And I won't consider anything to be bad seed below 50% germination. And that's why anything below 50% germination, I just throw 2 seeds in each hole. 50% germination plus 50% germination, you have nearly 100% chance of something growing in this cell. And heck, if you really have doubts, throw 3 seeds in and then just thin them out. But that will dictate, again, how much seed you can expect to germinate, the amount of seeds you need to dedicate to a tray, and just to make sure you're not wasting any time or resources at all. So, because if your germination is a big fat goose egg, well then it doesn't matter how many seeds you put in a cell, it's not gonna do any good anyways. So it is that simple, you guys, that simple. And again, do this do this a month or 2 before you start seeds, and that way you've got good seed. And there you go, it is that simple. I really hope that you guys enjoyed. I hope you learned something new. It is truly that simple. It's that simple, and it can really help you save a ton of time, a ton of money, and a ton of resources. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you learned something new. And as always, this is Luke from the MIgardener channel, reminding you to grow big or go home. And we'll catch you all later. See ya. Bye.